It's a short season. It's interesting to like take a look at what people do whenever they get a cut budget. Yeah, like I know it's not really that comparable, but in like Legend of Korra, the 4th season, they got their budget cut without them really knowing beforehand, and it was practically the amount of an entire episode, and they, instead of either degrading the quality of the entire season or being one episode shorter, what they did was make one episode that was just flashbacks, where it was just like, characters were, because at this point like 4 years had gone by, or 4 or 5. It took place over a long time. So what they were doing was like seeing how much they had grown as people, which obviously that's not fun and entertaining, but it's a good compromise other than, degrading the entire quality.
I think that does degrade the quality. I fucking hate flashbacks. I fucking hate
Attack on Titan.
They don't add anything new.
Yeah,
Attack on Titan. It's like episode 13 and a half or something, and it's just a flash. It's just a recap episode. I hate recap.
13 and a half, dude. You realize that's an OVA, right? That's not part of the main season. That's like a separate thing where like animes do that all the time.
Where they have a recap episode?
Anime.
Yeah, like they do recaps episodes.
Sword Art Online did that. Sword Art Online has a separate movie.
It's the same thing.
I hate that. It was so dumb.
I always hated it.
Okay, get off the topic.
I slaughtered them like animals.
They don't like anime.
Yeah. Anyway, but
I don't like anime. I just don't like anime.
Well, Legend of Korra, I fell off about mid-second season.
The thing is, because season 1,
it got so boring.
I wish they had planned, like there's no way they thought that they weren't going to be able to make another season. Like, people wanted new Avatar forever. It's really a bummer.
The first season was fantastic.
I don't think it was all that. It might have been a little bit of that where like they weren't expecting it, but also like maybe they didn't want to. Like maybe they were like, let's do this.
It definitely felt like there wasn't as much heart.
I remember hearing something about them not wanting to make more, but then they're like they just saw how much the fans wanted more, that they wanted to make more.
Well, and honestly, when I was first watching it, like I rewatched the series like a week ago. When I first watched it, I was like, I don't like the fact that she had a new villain every time. Every season, it was just like whatever. Yeah. But now I like it because it's like they turned it into like a trials thing. It's like, oh, look at all these achievements I've made and all this that I'm still going to do. Mm-hmm. Whereas Aang was like, he had the one challenge to get over and we didn't know anything else.
And then it was like smaller challenges.
No, but the thing was, Korra had this natural talent for learning all the bending abilities, except for Air. Air was the one that she had trouble with.
Yeah.
And that was tackled in the first season. And so it was like, okay, so she did what Aang had to take 3 seasons to do in one season. And it was great. And then they were like, okay, so now what do we have to do? Aang had that same amount of trials, I feel, but they were different trials.
Well, the thing is, Korra had like actual like trainers. Like she had people teaching her because she was more of a traditional Avatar.
With Aang, everybody thought Aang was straight up dead.
Yeah. And he was only learning by people who were learning.
Yeah.
Well, they thought he was dead like 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is he had to learn, like you said, he had to learn 3 times. He had to learn from people who were still trying to figure out how to do.
Yeah. That's not all true.
He learned from
that's not true.
From Katara, really. He learned waterbending.
He learned from the master at the North Pole.
Yeah.
Well, basic waterbending he learned from Katara.
Well, that's the thing. It was just basic. He didn't do his training with her.
Yeah, but he still had to. He had to learn how to waterbend from Katara, who still had no idea like how it worked.
They kind of learned together. Yeah. It was he didn't train with him very long.
And that really built their relationship. I thought it was a really, really smart way for them to show them both growing together.
And she was a master.
Yeah, she already knew.
Yeah, Toph is fantastic.
And then Zuko was also a master.
Yeah.
So he learned from master.
Yeah, Zuko was still in training though.
It's just it was traditional training.
He was in training to learn how to actually
use it. Yeah, practically.
Like he was through techniques he was a master, but he didn't have like what made a firebender.
Yeah. that was a really, really cool idea too. The fact that he was using rage to firebend when
that's all he knew.
Yeah. And like the actual power behind firebending came from like passion instead of it. Yeah. And there's like actual beauty in this thing that everybody viewed as evil. That was a really, really cool idea on their part.
Yeah.
I just think like the first season of Korra, like because they weren't planning on doing more, it was so condensed. Like that story easily could have gone on multiple seasons.
Yeah.
Like
Amon
you
was
could
a
tell
cool villain.
it was very condensed, but it definitely could have been longer.
Amon was a super cool villain, I thought.
Until the end.
Until
he was like Bane.
Until they gave him.
He was cool until the end.
He was cool until they gave him an identity.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Oh, until they were like, oh no, this is his brother.
When they said he was an actual person, and then he showed up later in the episode, immediately didn't care.
He was very
because the whole show they did a beautiful job of making him intimidating.
He's just
the fact that he was in the scene, your heart dropped.
Yeah.
And as soon as they gave him an identity, I didn't give a shit.
Yeah, it was like, oh, it's that guy. He's not scary. He lost a lot of his wow factor.
Yeah. Now even though he did lose a lot of that, I still thought he went out with a bang.
Literally.
Yeah, literally.
He blew up in a boat.
I thought that was a really cool way for him to go.
The ending was shitty.
I thought it was a really interesting and cool way
Which
for
is
him.
interesting. Usually people don't die in Avatar.
Yeah. That was like the first like real major one. We should talk about something else because Mason doesn't know what we're talking about.
Sorry.